to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.
All right. Hi. Hello. We are
Hello.
live.
Welcome to the dungeon. I'm Andrew Overdahl,
And I'm Harlan Kelly.
and this is a talk show where we chat with game masters about running tabletop role-playing games. With us this episode, very special guest, one of the funniest comics I know from Los Angeles, John Roy. Welcome to the show. Thank you for doing the show. A lot of my friends in Los Angeles play Dungeons and Dragons, and John is the dungeon master to them all. They all.
Okay.
He is.
At
He
least
seems
six.
to be
At least
LA's
6 or 7.
LA's premier dungeon master, it seems.
Good.
But thank you so much. Thanks for doing our show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be recognized for something that otherwise might seem like a complete waste of time.
Not here, baby.
Not here. Yeah.
Safe space. One question we like to ask people right up top, because it gives us kind of a framework for their history with games, is if you could just real quickly tell us your personal history with tabletop games.
Sure. I was about 6 or 7 years old, and we lived in the city of Chicago, where my dad could walk to work to Loyola University, where he works. And in the Loyola bookstore, which was right on the street that he would walk to work, was in about 1980, 1981, there was a big display of the D&D basic set and the AD&D, the classic 1980 books, or 79, whatever it is. And so they were all in the mirror or the window, and I got my dad somehow to buy the basic set when it didn't even come with dice. We would have cut down chits and put them in a hat, and so I would try to play this thing at age 7, trying to get my parents to explain something that I didn't even understand through Gygax's insane math textbook fucking version of the game instructions. And then I chewed through that trying to get family friends to play with no success till probably about 1983, 84. And then I played some, juvenile games and then I think I started in earnest playing the D&D Basic Expert companion stuff in high school, freshman, sophomore, and then I didn't play a role-playing game for 25 years until I was an adult and D&D 5th edition came out, and I was like, there's nothing stopping me from doing this, and I just got back into it.
That's so cool.
That's crazy.
I love the gap, though. I feel like it's so fun to ask everyone this question because there's so many similarities, but also everyone has this unique kind of coming back to it moment in whatever way it is. And I don't think we've heard one with I was into it and there was this big gap and then I just jumped back in. So that rules.
That's
fun.
Really what it was. It was just I didn't play in college. There was all too much stuff going on. I started doing comedy, which eats up your entire life when you're starting out. Your social life is your career, is everything. And then, so 20 years go by where you really, and I lived in different cities every week. You're on the road. It's not like you can, hey, let's get the group together.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any real inkling to play it until D&D 5th edition came out, and all these people that I knew started playing again. But I think Jared Logan was already playing. I knew a couple guys that played, didn't have the big gap like I had.
I lost
Went
audio.
off with my wife and a couple friends, and then we've been playing a monthly game now for 2 years.
Nice. So it's once a month?
Yeah, it's about once a month. I play with, Jared's been in that game, Andrew DeBouche from the Conan staff.
Oh, yeah.
A couple other, Brian Baldinger, a bunch of, LA comedy types. And then a guy, Alden Cornejo, works in animation for American Dad. He does the background. So it's a very Hollywoody kind of D&D group. But we've been playing now a Greyhawk based 5th edition campaign for about 2 years now, once a month. They're about 5th level. And we've been playing strict, like XP by the encounter. Like I haven't been pushing it. It's been, you kill and I plan all the missions out, so I know kind of what XP they ought to get to. But we're playing by the book. We're not fudging anything.
That's
Nice.
That's so cool. And I'm sorry, my Zoom cut out for like a tiny second. How did that game like start? What was the moment when it like when you guys were like decided to start doing it?
I have always preferred DMing to playing. And I do play. I played it about 3 or 4 times, and over the last couple of years, and it's fine. But I still prefer being the dungeon master. So I just decided to do it, and I texted Logan, and I was like, "Hey man, I know you love this stuff. Would you want to play in a D&D game?" And he goes, "Yeah." Because I also know other people that might want to play. And so within like an hour or two, we had a whole game ready to go. That game has had a fairly steady. We've had 4 people play it every session, and then there's been kind of a little bit of back and forth of who can play and who can't. But it's been a pretty steady campaign every day since.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
This is a question for both of you. Sorry, did I cut you off there, Harm?
No. That's just, I just love the idea of like it getting picked up really quick. Like us being like, oh yeah, okay, the floodgates are open. Because I feel like
there were a lot of people in my position who were like, yeah, let's play that again. That would be great.
Yeah.
And I think the number of people that, if given an opportunity, would jump back into it is bigger than you think.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I think a lot of DMs feel this way that I've come across, but do you feel like you've kind of become like this whisperer of like, if you've never played before or you're just interested, you want to start it back up, like, yeah, come here. I will get you back into it.
Yeah. I mean, you sort of have to, right? Because the amount, you have to love the prep work enough to like be ready to, because it's so hard to do. And I don't even see a difference between making your module up from scratch and adapting one you bought. It's the same amount of work to figure out like what the encounters are. Like just get, so for me, like it's gotta be the DMs that convince people to play, because we're the people that make it possible. Like no one else is gonna do that. I always feel like with Dungeon Masters, you're like the drummer of a band in that you can always get a band, because every band needs a drummer, and there aren't a lot of them who are going to buy all the fucking equipment,
Yeah.
Like I think it's the same thing with RPGs. It's like, yeah, we all want to play, but who's going to buy the stuff and actually get a map out and draw something and, decide, how many hit points the drow have.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that the DM would be the drummer, but you are absolutely correct.
When I first got into it, it was solely because I was like, I just want to play this as much as possible. And one of my friends was like, well, you should start DMing. And I was like, okay. And now I'm like, I can't start any more games. I like literally can't, because I just have so much D&D that I want to play and I am playing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I did it too.
I've got my one campaign that all of that mindset D&D goes into that. And then I've got lately on Zoom, Jared and I ran a superhero game called Mutants and Masterminds, and we've done 2 sessions and one more. And that actually has a first-time player. This guy, Sam Wiles, has never played any RPGs whatsoever before. And he picked a doozy of one to play first, because Mutants and Masterminds is a tangled web of rules. but we've been getting through it. It's been fun. Like we've just been deciding that, like, every session I think we get better at the rules, and having on Zoom, having all those guys have their own rule books to look up makes all the new game weirdness quicker. Because I can be like, guys, can you check that right now? Because like I don't have. But with D&D, I was surprised how quickly I got back into running it. Like 5th edition is really easy, and it has the same feel as. I know it's much less complicated than 1st and 2nd, but running the game feels the same.
Yeah.
And I don't have that feeling trying to run different games, but D&D is just enough in my DNA, I think, at this point, that I don't really have. I didn't have a lot of trouble picking it up and going, all right, roll for initiative. We're back in this,
Yeah, it's clearly a home run on their part, because so many people who played the older versions came back to it, and then people like me who were new to it, when they found it, they managed to create something that kind of attracted both types of people. The people who were totally new to it, and the people who were like, oh yeah, I'll come back and give it another chance. So they crushed it.
So I have a question for you then. Do you find yourself like I don't know. You said you like play with a lot of people who are like performers and Hollywood type. How is this experience different if you're like interacting with a lot of these people? Maybe in performing on stage or whatever, and then with D&D, do you like see different sides of people, or like do you see people kind of like performing differently?
Sure. I mean, I think that especially with performers, like you're used to them doing funny voices or being exuberant or whatever. But what you don't see in that situation quite as much is that they still want to like their character to like win and get all the gold and kill all the monsters. So you see this kind of competitive side of the performer people, like that, maybe if it weren't a role-playing game, wouldn't be going, could you actually check? Because I think that my surge action as a fighter actually would affect the horse. Like, so you don't get like, you see the rules lawyer side of people come out, or the frustration with dice rolls, like stuff that you just can't get out of the context of a game.
Yeah.
It's all the behaviors that are entirely specific to playing what I call Army Men Yahtzee. It's like this crazy game that's sort of skill based but way more luck based, and so you just get this kind of unique blend of competitiveness and frustration that only arises from a game like this.
I love that. Yeah, because it's true. I mean, and like people get attached so quickly to their characters in ways that new players and old players alike are just like, I don't want to lose.
I don't fudge dice rolls. If they die, they die. Luckily, 5e, man, you gotta really try to die. I mean, I guess if I had every goblin slit every throat without fighting, off the still living ones, you could kill them more easily. But I have run my monsters fairly reasonably, and I've certainly balanced all the encounters the way they tell you with their CR math.
Mm-hmm.
And, almost everyone's been down at 0 hit points at one point or another, but I've never had a total party wipe or even gotten close to it. And again, it's not like they're steamrolling the encounters either, but I feel like they've hit a spot where if your players aren't morons and they're actually trying not to die, they probably will make it out of whatever you throw at them.
It's hurtful as a player who recently died.
It's super. Like, the meta narrative of this is that.
No, look, they've done some. Yeah, my players have done some ridiculous.
I did the dumbest thing I could do. I dropped. There were 2 ships, kind of flying alongside our ship in the air. This is a Spelljammer game, and I dropped the anchor of the first ship on purpose to make the pursuing ship smash into it. And in my head, I was like, I'll have time to escape. I'm going to run, and I'm going to pull like a Peter Pan on a rope, and I'm going to swing back to my ship. Yeah, I just kind of like banked on being able to escape. And that was not the case because that's not how things work. I dropped the anchor, and then
so you
ship
fell out of the sky.
Turn, and they smashed. I actually lived because we did like a special like roll thing, and the character actually did survive thanks to me not knowing the rules. But technically I would have been dead.
I mean, what your point with this is super true. I've seen sessions where everyone is down. And it's like a monster or something. Like I think the situation was like they just left the bad guys just left the down party there, and the DM had everybody go around the table and roll death saving throws, and somebody got a 20. All of these dice rolls with 4 or 5 people, if you're rolling at least 3 times, there's probably going to be a 20. To let one person survive and then maybe give somebody a potion, and which saves half the party. They have
stacked the odds in your favor of at least living.
Yeah. So,
or even just 3 successes, you get stable. You're just still unconscious, right?
Yeah. But if the DM doesn't want to, have grave robbers stick around to finish you all off, which is certainly your choice, but most people don't. Like I don't see that happen all that often. I mean, and you can sort of justify it because if you were fighting a party, you would want to beat the ones that weren't lying down before.
Right.
So as long as you either get everybody out of there or, I mean, I'm not saying it still can't happen, but it's not like in old, basic expert D&D where you're a wizard at first level had 4 hit points, a dagger and 1 spell.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, like you're dead.
I feel like I have 3 types of enemy AI for when they kill. There's like if they are sentient humanoids, if they knock you out, they'll probably just leave you to be knocked out. And then if they're beasts, and if they eat meat, you're screwed because I will have them try to eat you if you're unconscious. And then there's humanoids that are like that I would consider like nemesis sort of, and they will, if they knock you out, they will take great pains to make sure you're
the dead, same way in my game. Cultists don't run. They'll fight to the death, but mercenary types will bail very quickly if it's not going well, because what's the point?
I have a hard time making enemies bail at the proper time. I'm like too greedy for the encounter, and I'll have them stick around.
But you know, the good thing about having enemies bail though is that you can pile them back in on top of another encounter. So if your front hall guards bail down the hall into the depths of the castle, then when the cocky players follow them down the hall and fight somebody else, the hall guards can come back and fight them, 6-on-4 instead of 4-on. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, you can always have them, stiffen up their numbers later, and so you can still get your encounter out. You just don't let them go down so quickly.
Yeah.
Totally. We had this question come up in our Discord, and I was just wondering your thoughts on this, Sean. You said that you're running your campaign pretty much by the book, so I don't even know if you've like dabbled in this, but I was wondering if you had any go-to methods for increasing challenge rating. Like if you're like, I like this monster, but I feel like its challenge rating is too low. Do you have any go-tos to jack it up?
Yeah, friends, man. I mean, like, honestly, if you think about the way an encounter runs, take any single enemy and you can jack those hit points all the way up, but you're still basically talking about the boss in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where 4 arcade players are wailing on one guy, and that's not, that's like it's not an effective fight. Like, all of my big boss monsters have friends with them.
Yeah.
Because the best way to jack the challenge rating up, and if you look at the way the D&D math does it, an individual enemy you add completely bends the curve in favor of the bad guys. So, like, honestly, take your big hill giant that you don't think is enough for these guys. You give them even 2 fucking kobolds.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about that encounter goes immediately from orange to red. And it's just because there's now 2 people that can bother the players while they're all trying to gang up on the hill giant. So honestly, I think absolutely the most bang for your buck is to just give your final boss some friends.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people do, I mean, there's legendary actions already built in. It's just get like really liberal with those types of actions, like giving a character a player.
My characters are all 5th level, so we haven't even gotten to anything that has a layer effect or anything like that.
Yeah,
like,
but a lot of
they made pretty swift work of a Balgura, the big demon with the ape body. They them up. And that was without a short rest. That was immediately off another encounter with a warlock and all his buddies, and they were helped a little by the fact that the demon was on a rampage to kill other people and wasn't just completely focused on murdering them. But they did go through that thing pretty tough, and I'm looking at the next couple encounters that I've got for them, and I'm throwing wave after wave on one of them, and stuff that when they hit 5th level, they start getting tough. Yeah. Their hair turns blonde and they go Saiyan. It's not easy
that proficiency
to deal with
bonus gets that bump, so they get kind of better at a lot of stuff.
And they can do goofy things, like they can fly and drop shit on them, and just stuff that like you're not really in your normal top-down view of a role-playing game you're forgetting about.
Totally. Yeah, once flight powers kick in, and it's like you always have to factor that in. Like,
they start doing stuff that you couldn't do in the computer game. Like that. That's when your DM head has to start to go, oh shit, all right, they're thinking human beings. They don't just have 9 options on their game controller. Like they can make up some shit and I have to deal with it.
Some crazy,
Yeah.
Crazy, that's why tabletop's always better though, because they really can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
As long as it's by the abilities of their character, they really can think outside. There's no box. It's just them thinking.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm a big board game nerd too, and it's hard to adjust to go back to board games after tons of tabletop games because it's just like being like brain handcuffed. It's like, nope, you can only do this and this.
Play that
You
harder.
can't. Doesn't matter how creative you are, you can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's a whole nother style for sure.
And there's usually like one way to kind of like win. You know, there's like strategies, and you're trying to like adapt to like a couple things, but really you're just trying to like get the victory points to.
Well, and I give my characters experience, even if they outwit the villains, if they make them run, whatever they do, they get the same points as if they killed them all.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Because like I don't want to encourage murder hobos when that isn't the only way. It says defeat. It doesn't say you gotta like reduce all the enemies to 0 hit points.
So, I mean, RP...
It's conflict. They resolve the conflict either way. Yeah.
I think you're one of the first DMs we've had on here who's pretty, like, who's just going by the book with XP. And we've had people talk about, and just, like, ask a question, too, about role-playing in XP. So do you have any, like, tips for people or just, like, strategies in your head for how you give XP outside of monsters, outside of like combat?
I don't really. I mean, I give a couple goal things here and there. I'll give them out. Okay, 100 XP here and there for good role playing. Some cool idea they had, but I basically I look at the number of monsters that I need, and it's harder to do the higher level they get. So now they're never going to level in one adventure. But I just fucking load it up with bad guys and go. You know what I mean? Like you can do your planning so that you know for one they had to get through this wizard's tower that had a gate to the Feywild, and there's all sorts of shit in there. But I just made sure that the XP of all the things in that tower added up to where they would no longer be second level when they got out of the tower.
I like that. So if they finish, like it doesn't.
If they finish, they did it.
Yeah, that's cool. Like if there's this room full of bad guys and they figure out a way to like lock them in there and whatever, like they still have.
And there was a series of adventures after that where they weren't going to level in that session, but I just added it all up and gave them the XP. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly fine system. Like you want to keep them advancing, but you can do that in many different ways. You can give them material rewards. They can get influence with different NPCs. They solve parts of the story. They got a castle that they cleared out that they own now. Like there's other ways to reward them rather than just making sure their little powers get bigger, I mean, and there's nothing, and you want to do that too. But, I don't really see the problem with a slower advancing rate of I don't know. I mean, you should probably talk to them about that, before you talk to me. They're the ones who have to deal with it as players.
No, I agree. I think that slower is better. I have made the mistake of leveling up players quickly because I do story-based leveling, and they'll do anything. Anything, and they'll be like, "Can we level up, please? Like, come on, that was hard."
That's why I like it out of my hands, because it's not my decision. You know what I mean? Like, I am no longer their weird, like, codependent, like, fun drug dealer. I mean, I still am on paper,
but there's a system. But you have prescriptions for it. Yeah,
you didn't kill enough guys. You're not. It's not. You can't beseech me if I've taken that power away from myself.
Yeah, that's what I like about XP. That is kind of tempting to start using it. Is that I could be like, look, the numbers are the numbers, and
anything to preserve the illusion that it's not arbitrarily the game master telling them what is and what isn't. Anything to preserve the fact that we're playing a game that has rules in and of itself, in my viewing, is a good thing. Because you don't want it to all be, a thing where they think they can like kiss your ass or pout or like, like this is supposed to be a game. We're playing a game. Like, you can't look at the banker in Monopoly and be like, only $400. Like it says $400 on a card. So any of that you can release into of what can often be a contentious referee and batter relationship, umpire and batter relationship.
That's such a good point, because I think I have a lot of trouble with that with like NPCs who I build who I'm like, this is the thing, you know, like they believe in this thing or whatever, or like, and I'm trying to do politics or things like that. It's, you know, I've had the experience playing with people where they kind of view it as a video game where they're like, I can just get this person to do what I want, or like get the information that I know that I need from this being by just like, I don't know, you know, hitting the right dialogue box. And I'm like, no, if you don't get it, you don't get it. Like, it's just,
Yeah, they don't tell you.
yeah,
Sorry.
if you're mean to them, they don't like you.
When I rolled an 18, like they don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But you know, also just give the NPCs a massive wisdom score, and you don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, if you really want somebody that they can't intimidate, then you just you build the NPC. You don't have to roll.
Yeah.
So if you want Mordenkainen to be completely unflappable, just build him that way.
Yeah.
And then they can't outsmart him because he's smarter than them.
Yeah.
Yeah, a 20 is a 20, but a 20 really only works in combat situations. There's nothing about a 20 in ability checks. I guess they always succeed, but you decide what a success means.
Yeah.
And maybe the most you could be able to move Mordenkainen is that he decides not to give you the curse. Or, you know, like you decide what a success is. Because I'm sure I could yell at Tucker Carlson every which way I wanted to, but I couldn't get him to vote for Biden. You know what I mean? Like, but whatever a win is on Tucker, I would
nat 20 on,
yeah,
on debating Tucker
You
Carlson.
know, just
the nat 20 is his head
party.
explodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like, there are situations. I know we're almost at time here, but just real quick, like a situation where this came up in a game recently. The game was going to be a shipwreck game. The players were going to be marooned on this island, so it was a one shot, and so they had to be knocked off the boat. And for fun, I had them do dexterity saving throws, so it didn't quite feel like they were being railroaded into being shipwrecked. And I made the DC crazy high. It was like 25.
Yeah.
Which would have required them to hit a nat 20 with 3 dexterity and be proficient in the saving throw. So I let them do it, and they all failed, as I had hoped. But then I was like, well, what if one of them had made it? Like, the point of the game is that they're marooned on an island. So,
but here's what would happen if one of them had made it. Whatever he wanted. He's on the ship now, but the ship starts drifting away from them.
Yeah, totally. Or I was just going to hit him with another wave. I would just find another way to knock him off,
the only, what you can't do, I don't think you can, you have to give the players the ability to succeed and make their situation better by their efforts. But I don't think you have to give them a win button.
Yeah.
You can't put a lose wall that they can never pierce, but I don't think you have to make the degree of their success break the adventure you've planned for them.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at some point, it's in their interest to get to the rest of the content you had because it's going to be better than whatever you improvised.
Totally. Well, we have a roll 20 table. If you could hit the roll a d20, we'll ask a question off that. And chat, last chance. If anybody has one question.
Can you roll for me? I don't have a dice handy.
Oh, yeah. You're the first DM who hasn't had a dice.
We're moving
streak.
to a condo. We don't the stuff isn't out.
That's
packed up your dice.
Excuse.
Yeah.
All right.
The dice is the last priority to get unpacked.
Yeah.
Like, hey, honey, can you...
Oh, I keep it in my cheek when I move. And then I spit it out of my hand.
All right, what'd I get?
You want me to do it? I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a 10 right in the middle.
I got a 10.
A 10.
Perfectly median roll.
Okay. I don't know. Again, since you seem to play it fairly by the book, I'm not sure about this question for you, but what's a table rule that you have that you wish would be canon, that you wish was just part of the 5e rule set?
I don't really have a lot of table rules. Like we just play D&D. Well, I have a table rule that I got rid of because I realized it was wrong. I had a rule where in between going from 0, if you get healed, it took a round for you to collect yourself and sort of, like, if you think about Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, and he's like before he can actually fight again. And then I realized that rule was false. It was not in the rules that the way a D&D goes, if you get healed back from 0, you can fight the very next round. which I didn't realize, but now I've incorporated that. But I'm also like, well, it works for the bad guys too. So I mean, I'll just make sure that the orcs know that as well, and then we'll be even again. But that's really we don't have a lot of house rules. We basically play by what's in the book. I don't, again, it's like I said before, like I really don't want, I try to avoid as much arbitrary power landing on my shoulders, so you can kind of keep the idea that there's this, source that you can go to resolve the game and make it fair around. So I don't like to bend the rules too much.
Yeah.
Well,
And I mean, Dungeons & Dragons has decades
Yeah.
of people's experience going into those rules. So whenever I tweak a rule, I'm like,
And,
right?
and look, if you rules lawyer me and you're right, all right, dude, you won. I mean, I don't want it happening all the time, but that dude was right. The way it's written, his fighter surge gave the horse an extra dash, and he was able to catch up to the guy he was chasing and cut his head off. I mean, like that.
you will never forget this. You will
Do
never.
I think that a horse's stamina should be affected by the rider's stamina? No, I don't. But that's not the way D&D. That's not the way D&D works.
I love it.
Is there a moment that you can think of? Besides, I mean, it seems like this horse moment is one of them. But do you have
The
anything
horse
else?
one, we went to all the way to the Supreme Court on that one. Like, that was that went up the chain.
Because just you describing it, I feel like I would not allow. I'd be like, no, like effect that just affects you.
Fighters
Why would
have
that
action
affect the
surges,
horse?
which
But-
gives them a second attack if they use that, a second action. And then if you look at the rules for controlling amounts, the actions come from the rider and not the horse. So I guess he just kicked him again, and the horse went another,
Oh,
60
interesting.
feet. But
Wow.
I don't know. Tell that to Jeremy Crawford. It's not, I didn't do it.
Oh, Jeremy Crawford and I already have something to talk about with twinning ice.
God,
Knives, so-
don't get him
We'll get
started
to
on
it.
twinning ice.
We're gonna get to it. Well, thanks so much for doing the show.
Yeah.
John, do you have
Thanks for
anything you want to
having
plug, like your backdrop?
Yeah, you'll see behind me, this logo is Legends of the Painting Men. And if any of your listeners play Warhammer miniatures battle games, they might be interested in hearing me and comedian Andrew DeWitt, who is also the Warlock
Very
in
funny
the
dude.
campaign, bullshit about Warhammer for 2 hours. It's we've got 28 of these episodes. They are all full of insanity and stupidity. That's our guarantee.
Warhammer. Whenever I see Warhammer at the hobby shop, it's like peering into like an abyss. Like,
Oh yeah,
it's like there's like a rack focus like on
Yeah.
me in the hobby. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
don't even, not even one thing. Don't even get.
the
You will
abyss
never
is
buy
even more
any of this.
expensive than you could possibly
Yeah.
imagine.
And
I
the
know.
hobby shop I go to, they have like a huge Warhammer diorama that people
Oh yeah,
like.
the drug dealer's gonna
Floyd
show you
Cities,
the
yeah.
heroin.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna at least get a look at it.
And yeah, I think it is so cool. But yeah, I'm like, no.
Truly.
Well, also, if they want to follow me on social media, I'm at John Roy Comic on Twitter and Instagram, John Roy on Facebook, and just click on there and see if you like it.
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
And I think you probably would have mentioned this. Your game is not like streaming or anything, right? Your monthly game?
No,
Okay.
but I am a player on Jared Logan's Stream of Blood. I did 2 games of a game called Mothership. It's kind of like the movie Alien, and I play a Teamster, and you can watch a party lose on that second episode.
That's yeah, he runs tough games for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks so
Guy
much.
Branham went rogue, but that's another story. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me, and I don't know. Good luck with your games.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
you around on the internet. Yeah.
All right. And
All
thank
right.
to all of you for watching and chat.
Yeah.
And-
And it. Yeah. Oh.
Oh, he left.
Tip your DM. Bye.
Tip your DM.